Everything mentioned in this video are strictly allegations and haven't been 100% proven or settled in any court of law to prove whether he's guilty or not, so for legal reasons, despite how convincing the evidence may seem, I will be referring to all of this as alleged. Alright, welcome back everybody. I can't do my normal intro because it's too early in the vid to risk that type of language, but we really have reached a point in our humanity where so many diaper snipers are getting exposed that we can now make birthday calendars out of it. Which month is your pred? Make sure to comment down below. Everybody here is familiar with Kris Tyson. He was to MrBeast what Bert was to Ernie, and Mr. Watson to Sherlock Holmes. Seeing MrBeast without Kris was like seeing a cock without balls. The two are an iconic duo. I know none of you care, but I really have been a long-time viewer of MrBeast ever since he was uploading his worst thumbnails and worst intro series, doing what almost everybody did at the time of 2016, which was poking fun at cringy kids on the internet. And the only friend that ever appeared alongside him at the time was Kris. If I remember right in a past interview about MrBeast's upbringing, Kris mentioned being Jimmy's first ever subscriber.
I was here with Jimmy the day he created his YouTube channel, and I was actually his first subscriber.
When you create an account on Xbox, they have this thing where it just gives you a random gamer tag, and I was just like, MrBeast, this sounds cool.
During that time, he was kind of trying a bunch of different things.
So seeing him evolve from this predecessor to full-blown predator of the channel that got directly fired by MrBeast is quite sad to see. But let's go back to the start. The last time we covered Kris was during the controversial drama they had with Sunny V2, where in his video he had some agreeable points but would ultimately imply that Kris's transition from becoming a man to a woman would be a nightmare for MrBeast's brand, and talked about the conflict the internet had with his initial transition. Well, by no means was Sunny right, but goddamn, he was not wrong either looking at the hindsight of this situation. I just know he's probably sipping martinis on the beach bar cheese and watching all of this unfold. I swear this man just deadass played a game of tabs in real life. He just set the whole battle up and watched it all at the top of the hill. To really start with how Tyson went from Kris to Dr. Kris Respect, we need to explain who the artist Shadman is. Shadman, in the most simplest way to put it, is a YouTube Jeffrey Epstein. There's even a list floating out there of how many YouTubers this man has contacts with because he's generally that horrific. He was arguably a talented artist that used his talents for all the wrong reasons, and after getting kicked out of his art school, he became an absolute monster with his work. You know, it's like I haven't heard that story before. Art teachers, y'all gotta get your shit together and be careful who you're failing, because this is the second time a semen demon has spawned out of flunking that class. Enough beating around the bush though. How is Shad a monster? Well, for starters, he drew his own mother in a sexual manner, having her be completely naked. Don't even want to know what compelled this monstrosity to happen. You're supposed to only swim out of your mother, but apparently Shad was trying to swim his way back in. Sadly, that's only the start. He also drew lollipop cartoons that were based off of real living children. Now, if you're lost on what that term means, take out the pops and look at the definition I'm currently showing on screen. It's basically the anime version of cheese pizza, where children are drawn in a sexual manner, oftentimes performing acts on other grown adults in the short of an art form, and it's mostly drawn in a hentai-ish style. Obviously, I'm not showing any of this without the POV looking like you have cataracts due to how blurred it is. But one example would be Keemstar's 8-year-old daughter doing some unspeakable things to Donald Trump after somebody requested Shad to draw it for him. He called a 12-year-old girl a slur before doodling her getting assaulted and violated in brutal ways you don't even want to imagine. There was a time he decided to make NSFW art over a child YouTuber, Lieutenant Corbus, when she was only 11 years old. So this is an absolutely disgusting individual. I personally think even if you like lollipops in general, you should be castrated with an ice cream scooper. Don't care about the common defense of them actually being ancient warlords that are centuries old, so it's okay to be attracted to them even if they look like a toddler. It's still very weird. Go up to a person in Publix and tell them you like whimsical little wizards that are 400 years old but look 5. Yeah, you're getting pepper spray. But Shadman is infinitely worse because these aren't just cartoons or fantasy. These are drawings of real minors that Shad for some reason had beef with, which might I add is such a weird response to a beef is just to draw the op naked as your sort of get back. So how does any of this even circle back to Kris Tyson? Well, I mentioned before many creators would befriend Shadman or support him at the time, and one of those YouTubers was Kris. How all this was figured out was from the YouTuber addrox, where he would reveal the two having ties in this bombshell of an expose called "This Video Will Make You Hate Kris Tyson," highlighting the two having many interactions over the span of years, and even having Kris purchase a lollipop painting that Shadman drew, but also hung it up on MrBeast's wall at the time he was living with him.
A new question arises. How are Ava and Shadman linked? Well, the answer to this is another drawing by Shadman. It depicts a young girl wearing a "Please be patient, I have autism" cap, pointing a gun at her mouth. She has a fidget spinner as an earring and a spade tattoo on her thigh that says BBC, which we all know what it means. On November 18th, 2017, Ava responded to a tweet from Grande and MrBeast stating This is coming from a guy who owns a Shad-based drawing and has it as a centerpiece in his living room.
It's almost impossible for Chris to not know the context of who Shadman is, because I've seen a few trifling troglodytes online desperately try to make the excuse of Chris not knowing the history behind him. Come on, Chris knew exactly what they was doing buying that, because there's plenty more screenshots of Tyson being his #1 fan, showing support of him knowing exactly what sort of art he makes. Here's one of Chris shouting out Shad's website, claiming he accidentally pulled it up on stream. It was thankful it wasn't NSFW today on his page. There's another screenshot of Kris Tyson requesting Shad to make 18+ art of the character Beast Boy. The show is called Teen Titans for a reason, so obviously the math ain't math in here. Personally, if I was Jimmy, I would have taken this opportunity to run as far away from Chris as possible. This would have had me fearing I would be next. Here's another picture to ruin your childhood of Chris slobbering out of both heads for a lollipop version of Caillou. There is a 10-year-old anime character that Chris was begging Shad to draw. Still not enough for you? Let's have a look at their tweet saying nothing gets them to do the double Dutch clutch more than lollipop drawings. It's undeniable at this point. These were public tweets on Chris's account before he nuked his own Twitter. They're an absolute freak. And you remember how I said Chris hung up a piece of Shad's art? Well, the entire reason any of this was discovered was because it wasn't only in MrBeast's house. It was revealed by addrox to be in one of MrBeast's videos from 6 years ago. There's a part where Shadman's drawing is hung up in the room like it's a fucking Mona Lisa. You can see Jimmy staring at it, rethinking his life choices. And as we know, Chris was the one who most likely purchased it.
Messy was going on behind the scenes. In this MrBeast video, you'll notice a very familiar thing at the 9 minutes and 30-second timestamp. From what I believe, keeping illegal art in the bedroom isn't normal at all. The shocking thing is that MrBeast and Chris were roommates during that time.
I just can't imagine why this is something you would be proud of showing. I'm pretty sure he wasn't even married at the time, so imagine bringing the hose over to the crib and they just see a kid drooling with an autism hat. She's probably gonna start running and screaming. I mean, everybody in that room already looks visibly uncomfortable. I'm sure the guy with the phone was having 911 on speed dial right at that very moment. Owning this sort of art in almost every country but America is outright illegal. It's evident Chris is a creep and supports a CP illustrator publicly on social media. It's not a coincidence he owns that Shad painting. Not only does he have some fetish for lollipops, he also promotes his obsession for sharing celebrity hub pics. You guys get the gist, and one of them would be leaked pictures released of the famous iCarly star Jeanette McCurdy. For some context, Jeanette's ex-boyfriend posted revenge corn cobs of her after their breakup, and for whatever reason, Kris Tyson treated this news like it was the story of the century, instantly jumping towards the camera to post a video on his old YouTube channel, calling it a tragedy for a young woman to experience, condemning anybody from ever doing it, before proceeding to link it in his own description and encourage people to go watch it.
The story is she sent pictures to her boyfriend, her now ex-boyfriend, and he leaked them out. And the link's in the description if you want to see them. I mean, I'm not endorsing people to go look at somebody else's private business, but I know that you know, people might want to see them, so it's there if you want it.
Yeah guys, I by no means would ever encourage this kind of behavior, but if you accidentally fumble with your cock and have it smack the description box, you'll be able to bust one out with my link. Just what sort of thought process was going on in your ciabatta bread slice of a brain to say you don't want anyone to look for somebody's private info or business, yet you posted it directly at the top of your description, like Nickelodeon themselves sponsored you to do it? As a YouTuber, I feel like it would be common sense to at the very least not link it. Covering the story is weird on its own right, but somewhat justifiable over directly trafficking people to jork their pork to it. What I find arguably worse than all of this is the most recent accusations dropping about Chris allegedly talking with minors in an inappropriate manner on his own Snapchat, Twitter, and unsurprisingly Discord. This would again somehow be kept under the radar from everybody for the longest time until a YouTuber by the name of Prism42 would release a video exposing the alleged sexually charged conversations Kris Tyson had with a 14-year-old child named Lava when he was well into his 20s. The first example I want to show in this freak log frenzy is their interaction the two had publicly on Twitter, where Chris would tell Lava he has some fire nudes for him to see, then begged him not to share it. Other weird stuff was being said on Snapchat, where Chris would tell Lava he was ejaculating for this great nation, having a caption of the snap he sent be "Coming for America." There's not really much background context to why this was even said, but I really don't think there's any to give to justify this shit. I think it's common sense for every adult to know they shouldn't talk about semen to somebody that was still f***ing semen when they they was in high school. It's flat out weird. I mean, you guys got to remember this is somebody that is a prominent member of the most brand friendly and popular channel on YouTube as a whole, and this is how they interact with fans. It's a very grotesque look to say the least. Not all, there's another screenshot of Kris calling that 14-year-old dad, along with sending him kissy face flirtatious emojis, once again for the entire world to see on Twitter, and also more on Snapchat. Here's a short little video from more Pegasus, since the original account on Twitter got nuked, that shows what vile comments and messages Kris was allegedly sending to this 14-year-old. So Kris says with a devious smile, "When it's your wedding, you can do what you want." Questionable on why you're discussing weddings with a child, but nothing too wild. "Of course, dad," with some more freak ass emojis. Kris again gets creepy by saying to the kid, "You don't want anything expensive for your birthday? I could spoil you." I mean, that's something right out of Diddy's handbook. I bet he was salivating typing that one out. "I barely got any screen time. I wish you could see me more," with a moan emoji. The kid says, "I wish I was in the video." Kris replies, "Me too. It's too soon though. I could introduce you to everyone when you get a little older." Even though I'm pretty sure these two met up in person close to this time period. "Your birthday is coming up, isn't it?" "Yeah, December 2nd. You're turning 14. I don't know where the party will be at. My mom is still deciding. What do you want? I could give you anything." Yeah, don't even give them life. This motherfucker needs to undergo Chinese water torture. "It's fine, look at my snap. Okay, we've been here for a while now. I'm tired of texting. You is the only thing that's keeping me awake right now." All of this is completely indefensible, and with the information spreading around like wildfire, it was only a matter of time until Kris had to cave into making his own response. But before he could, Lava would just decide to pull this "tell my mom I love her, no you tell her yourself" ass cinematic save towards Kris, defending him entirely, deciding the heinous things they said were simply edgy jokes that we the people were blowing out of proportion. Lava begins his statement by attacking the YouTuber's sensitive society and a Cheeto for their videos on Kris, calling them liars for framing him as a victim in all this, despising them for not doing more research, even though he clearly can himself, because in both of those videos his name wasn't even uttered once. These videos are massive lies and twisting the truth. Ava never did anything wrong and just made a few edgy jokes. I was never exploited or taken advantage of. Can you do me a favor and comment on these videos and tell them to stop spreading lies? This situation takes away from children who are actively being exploited every day online. I am not a victim of anything being claimed in these videos or at all. Now, to be fair, there's an updated statement where he does recognize what Kris did as wrong and apologize to everyone. But in this initial response, he was Voldemort of that video. There wasn't a singular time he was mentioned unless he had MrBeast standing over him with a grim smile and a gun. I don't know how he couldn't have at least took the time to watch the video before airing them out for everyone to see, because this response alone got 17 million views, leading a Cheeto and Sense to get harassed when they weren't even on the same page, not even the same book. Completely different novel, matter of fact. Lava would continue with, "I am not a victim and I am not backpedaling any statements I have already made. Everything I have stated is still very true. Nothing bad happened between me and Kris. People are creating lies around my name." So this sort of response led the internet to create this conspiracy that somebody on the MrBeast team, whether it be Jimmy himself or Kris, is paying him off to publicly support Kris's side. And honestly, with a response like that, it just makes it look like you got groomed even more. Shortly after all of this, Kris would eventually respond. Kris would start this annihilation of an apology with, "I would like to apologize for any of my past behavior or comments. If it hurt or offended anyone, it was not my intent. Seeing recent events, we've mutually decided it's best I permanently step away from all things MrBeast and social media to focus on my family and mental health." Yep, that's it. Something written straight out of Vault International. The most soulless, lackluster clusterfuck of an apology to ever exist. There's nothing addressing his association with Shadman, nothing that alludes to their creepy messages with Lava, nothing about lollipop tweets, just a bland PR pointless apology that shows Kris having absolutely no remorse. And to finish it off with the signature spending time with friends and family line everyone uses when they know the career's done for. You want to talk about spending time with your family, they're the last people your ass needs to be around. They need to be locked away in the global seed vault or something, because after this I think you lose the right to ever call yourself a good parent when you've openly been attracted to minors, or at least the art of it. Pay attention to the part where Kris mentions they mutually decided with Jimmy to leave the channel. This part is pretty interesting considering what's going to be shown later. Obviously, one person that wouldn't support this garbage response was Keemstar, who revealed they had a private conversation a month ago about Kris supporting Shad. "You didn't apologize to me a month ago in private when I brought up your behavior supporting the cartoon artist that drew my daughter in a sexual way. What changed?" Understandably, as any father should, Keem felt offended by how vague and distasteful Kris's apology was. So in retaliation, he made another tweet exposing referencing Tyson's old Reddit account named TysonBoy34, where they furthermore double down on their love for lollipops, along with saying other weird shit like it ain't prom without a she penis, along with adding pictures of that kind of stuff into his so-called collection. Just a degenerate freak of nature, really. So obviously, with more evidence coming out than ever ruining Chris's career, Tyson would desperately try to save face by adding more onto his apology. But somehow he added less onto the actual situation, miserably failing on winning the public side just like the first time. So it starts out with, I want to add, I never groomed anyone. The person who gets brought up in these accusations, Lava G, has vocally supported that these are false. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Hey everybody, the guy that I apparently groomed said I didn't groom them. Everyone can go home now. By the way, I take babysitting jobs on the weekends. Like, why was this supposed to be some mic drop moment for you when the child you manipulated and exploited tries to say he hasn't been exploited? Congrats, Chris, you became a predator successfully. You did your number on Lava, and I really think you groomed him into believing that what you were doing was okay. Tyson would continue grilling themselves by saying, having said that, I humbly apologize to anyone I have hurt with my unacceptable social media posts, past actions, and to those who may feel betrayed by how I used to act online. To lump these two factors together to create a narrative that my behavior extended beyond bad edgy jokes is disgusting and did not happen. In past years, I have learned that my old humor is not acceptable. I cannot change who I was, but I can continue to work on myself. To lick a sunny clit near the holy ass of horseshit, you know damn well that was not just some edgelord humor you left in the past. Chris, you told that kid in an alleged screenshot that you loved him on text, and suddenly tried to hide it as a Minecraft joke. That Shadman piece you have hanging on your wall that you bought as his #1 fan, being an open supporter for a CP artist. Is that all just supposed to be a joke too? If so, what's the punchline? You like minors? Hilarious. I'm sure your cellmates will be clapping even though you'll be the one making the noise for it. This just doesn't fly at all. It's more over something that instantly crashed into the ground. You made absolutely no attempt of owning up to what you've done and instead just try to downplay it. Finally, to end it off, Chris says, I don't want these accusations to impact the hundreds of people who work at MrBeast, which is why I've stepped away. I'm not gonna throw on a tinfoil condom and start my grand conspiracy, but I feel like there's a chance many members of the crew did know about this and kicked him off the team as soon as this all went public. Remember when I said Chris stated they mutually came to an agreement for them to step down? The long-awaited MrBeast response finally dropped a few days after this, where in MrBeast's statement, he would claim that he not only immediately fired Chris, but was additionally hiring investigators to look more into the situation. Over the last few days, I've become aware of the serious allegations of Ava Tyson's behavior online, and I am disgusted and opposed to such unacceptable acts. During that time, I have been focused on hiring an independent third party to conduct a thorough investigation to ensure I have all the facts. That said, I've seen enough online and taken immediate action to remove Ava from the company, my channel, and any association with MrBeast. I do not condone or support any of the inappropriate actions. I will allow the independent investigators the necessary time to conduct a comprehensive investigation and will take any further actions based on their findings. So you can kind of see the plot hole in all this about Chris getting fired. It could mean absolutely nothing and Chris was only bluffing about stepping away, framing it as something they both agreed on to make themselves feel better. Or it could mean a lot of the crew members, including MrBeast himself, knew the whole time and is only saying all this to quickly execute the drama and not have his YouTube empire come crumbling down. Now this is all purely speculation. We really don't know the inner workings of MrBeast, but perhaps Chris getting exposed will create this domino effect of everybody crashing down with him, which would be pretty sad to see because like I said at the beginning, I really have been a fan of both Chris and MrBeast for a very long time, and the last thing I would ever want to see is the #1 channel start his own downfall. With that being said though, I think that's going to wrap the video up there. Trust me, there's plenty more to still talk about as new information keeps coming out every day, so perhaps if this video gets 10,000 likes, I'll make a part 2, uncovering the rest, which includes the second miner Chris was speaking to alongside Lava that goes by the name of Nathan. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to slap a like on this vid before your dad slaps you, subscribe to hit my vibe, and make sure to follow my Instagram. The links will be down below in the description. I post hard fit pics instead of revenge photos, so please go run my Insta up to 7K. I got a birthday post coming up real soon. And yeah, I will catch you all next week. I'm gonna head out this bitch.